All right, it's 9 o'clock. Call this meeting to order.
And that's good. Yeah, I've got you written down.
Okay, all right. Here. Right.
I think that they're here.
Okay.
Committee work.
I guess we'll just go around and introduce ourselves. Keith D. Young.
What's the plan of reporting?
McElwee.
I'm Barry Hicks from the Land Information Access Association.
I'm Randy Melnick, another consultant.
Township. You guys like to introduce yourself? Okay.
Great. Okay. Welcome.
Spell your last name. Go ahead and say the whole thing again.
UCZ.
Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I think we'll turn this over to Randy here right away to talk about the report.
Okay.
Talk to them about it.
So the report from Networks Northwest came back. That's the tabulation of all the survey data. They use a program called Qualtrics, I believe is the name of it. And that's software that spits out all of the tabulations. As you remember what we did when the surveys came in, they came into the township, they were left unopened and they were taken to Networks Northwest for them to do the tabulation. And they did that and we just received the report. It was just the raw report from the program. And so it was on the Planning Commission's agenda last month, wasn't it? Or introduced, right?
Yeah.
And then, so now it's on the agenda for the September 6th. It has a cover page on it now and a copy of the original survey that was, that I put in there so that we could be able to post it on the township website. So the data is available now. It was, as I said, in the packet before, but it'll be posted on the township website probably shortly after September 6th, which is when the next meeting is.
Did they change the formatting at all, from default report to?
They brought the numbers into an alignment with the
Oh, they
survey
did.
because there was a
Great.
problem
Yeah,
before. I said, start with question 2.
yes,
So that might be confusion. So we corrected that, got rid of the default report that's at the beginning. There were just a few
great.
things like that.
Yeah, that was did they number the pages by chance?
Yes, and page numbers too.
Oh, great. Yeah,
So that's going to be in the packet for the Planning Commission meeting. Which will go out next week, I believe.
Great.
And then on the agenda for the 6th and then subsequently posted.
So at our last meeting, we had a number of requests.
Yes,
I think it was at the Planning Commission meeting, actually,
yes,
and they've met all those requests.
with some help, yes.
But it's been done.
They didn't do a cover page for us, we thought was necessary. And another question was actually putting the actual survey into the report so people could see the survey questions.
Yeah.
Because there's some limitations to that software that they have that limited their ability to put the whole question in the results. So
Mm.
was limited to so many characters or spaces.
at the top of the page.
Will the
Yeah.
public have to go back and forth between
Yes,
the
if they,
original survey and then
Mhm.
yes, but
find the answers to question number 8?
yeah, for the most part, you'll be able to tell what the question was, but you may not see the entirety of the question. You might have to flip back to the original, because some of the statements are a little long. We tried to keep those short, but it was sometimes hard to do that.
Okay.
And I didn't think of it till now. Maybe we can change from regular print to like bold for the question so that they can see it. But, you know, it's minor. What did you say one time? It's done? Too late to go back.
Yeah.
But it's still workable.
Just noticed a couple problems. Yeah, question 9 after question 3. In between 3 and 4, there's a question 9, and then there's 2 question 8s. Page 33 and 34.
May have been when they had to combine some of their questions into, numbering into
Yes.
one. So if there's 2 8s, it could have been the same question.
2 different questions. So it's a question in question, you're saying?
I don't have, you have a copy of this.
This is-
Survey
Oh,
itself.
yeah, it's in the front.
So it was 8 and then. That was big number.
Okay, so 8 has 2 questions, and that's why
Let's
it's on there.
What
Much of
was
the land north and,
Yeah, thoughts, yeah,
okay,
that's that.
all right. And
The
then-
other one was in the front.
Yeah, we have 2 9s. And that's 9's out of order.
The 9's out of order, yeah. I did.
Yeah, because there's 2 9s here where they're supposed to be, but this 9's
I went-
out of order, I'm not sure what
And
that is.
it looks like number, okay, these change over time. It should be question 4.
Okay, because 4 is here. Are there other aspects? Is there 2 questions in 4? These are the
Circle your
change.
choice. So,
Yeah, so
um,
something's wrong with
Page 6,
6
6
and
and
7.
7. Q9 should be number 4.
What Q4 is supposed to be.
Other aspect that one. Yeah.
So I saw right up the top of the bat.
Okay. So we have more cleanup to do.
We can go through that.
Well, the packet hasn't gone out for the planning commission yet, so we can circle back and make those
Yeah.
corrections.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I didn't have any of that.
We just don't want confusion, with a resident picking it up, and we can avoid that, so.
All right, so other than that, cleaning up on this a little bit, making sure the questions match where they're supposed to match. The next meeting, PC meeting is September.
Is September 6th.
Okay, so we got plenty of time. Not plenty of time, but we'll get to it.
Next, she wants to.
When does she need that up?
Next, like probably Tuesday.
So really, by Monday.
All right,
So this coming Monday and Tuesday, the 28th and 29th.
Yes.
could everybody kind of go through this a little bit tonight? And if they see any issues, send it to Randy. I'm gonna go ahead and go through it again one more time.
Is it available on the township, not on the township website? I'm
It's
sure.
not, no, it's not. I
Oh,
will,
how do I get my hands on it?
I will forward it to you.
Okay,
I think, yeah, the survey
Everybody.
questions, because I had difficulty. I pulled up an old email, but it may, how we were changing it. I wasn't sure if I had the final survey So if you could
Okay.
maybe send it to,
To both of them.
yeah.
Yep.
If you can,
I'll do that after the meeting.
Let's try to have it, our comments to Randy by tomorrow morning. And you can call them maybe and see if they can get it fixed up.
Yeah.
Before we get it to Rachel. Okay, I did receive the Excel files. Haven't pulled them out yet.
Okay.
But have them, so I'll start working on that. Anything else on the report we want to discuss? Did he get a copy of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a copy of the survey, the first version from Networks Northwest. We'll get you the cleaned up one. It doesn't change the values. It's just the questions and the relationship between the numbering in the report and the survey question numbering.
But I agree, if we're presenting this to the planning commission and certainly to the public, it's got to be clean.
Mhm.
Not confusing, not causing frustration for our public.
Okay, so I guess we can move on to the workshop. Anybody got any more questions or comments about the survey? Yes. You could speak up to the microphone, please.
Rachel forwarded the survey to me, the results.
Uh-huh.
And as I went through it, I went through it on my iPhone. It is very difficult to assimilate where I was within that survey. I could read the questions, and then all the comments that were made
Yeah.
really began to cloud the issue. Because as a resident, I was interested in how do the public respond, but it was difficult for me, and I'm a planner, to go through that process. So for me, and it probably at some point, there will be a summary that will better define. And I think that maybe that's what needs to be communicated at some point to a person like myself, is that this is the response that we received. At some point, there will be, a summary that, says, well, this question was responded by this many people, and so on and so forth. I gleaned through, and most of the comments seem to be about roads. Just what were the commonality of questions throughout the public? What did, in my mind, I wanted to ascertain, does the general public think about this community? And it seemed like, for me, roads was an issue because it came up over and over and over again. So thank you.
That's a good point. What was what do you think the PC's thoughts are on publishing this to the public without a kind of a summary to the beginning of it? Throwing us out there like this could be just terribly confusing.
Well, this is the raw results of the survey. And so when we begin to interpret and summarize, and it begins to have a certain spin to it. So I think we can do that, but I think we should also publish the raw results, as they came back. So that's exactly what we heard back. Now, then how we digest that, how we analyze it, how we blend that with the workshop that we'll talk about here in a little bit, is kind of another phase in my mind.
Okay, so we're thinking, suggests that the PC just publishes as it is right now, after we get it corrected.
Yes.
And with the explanation that, this is an ongoing report, we'll be doing a survey, an update to this. And
That we then interpret it, and the planning commission and the public, for that matter, can have their own takeaways from this. I think sometimes you look at the data and you read into it what you want to read into it, or you have your ideas validated. So, I mean, I don't disagree with trying to make it digestible because it's 100 and some pages and it takes forever to get through it. Um, But I think that's done separately.
I was thinking that maybe the suggesting at the beginning, like if you want a quick fact check to look at graphs, because that will show you a lot of the responses, like road, like you were talking about roads, it's got the long bar or something like that. But you're right, it was terrible to read on the iPhone. I actually printed mine out and then I couldn't do it on a phone. I just couldn't. I don't know how you did it.
Vicky had made a 10,000, I think she described it as a 10,000-foot overview or her
Mhm.
take on the results of the survey. I mean, that might be a starting point
Right.
for a
Mhm. Like you did as
summarization.
well.
Yeah.
Once I take the, look at the raw data in the Excel files, we'll pull out things like, make it look for common, comments like roads and stuff like that, put that in separate categories. And we're gonna try to digest this as easy as possible. And being that they gave us the actual Excel files, we should be able to do that fairly easy.
And then maybe on the comments, you could do a word search to tag how many comments mentioned road or how many comments mentioned this or that. And then
Yep, that would be in the
summary. Yeah. Okay.
summary. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the, yes.
Here, the old survey
Mm-hmm.
has all of your survey results. All that, and then the back pages are all of your
Comments.
open-ended comment type things. So
Yeah.
that, you can reference. It's on thing, just.
Right.
Yeah.
I think our finished product will be something like that. We'll have graphs and all that in there, but
Yeah.
doesn't sound like they can do much else here, right?
I think they believe their contract only called for doing a data dump from the software to the canned report that you get in Qualtrics.
All right. Move on to the outreach. There's an outreach we've got planned. I read the letter from Barry here. Very nice. Comment on that?
Want to walk through it with us?
Yeah, sure. So this was, the memo I generated was basically some ideas I put together, just trying to get organized for the open house. Other than getting the logistics down of where it's going to be at Mill Creek Elementary School, we've got the date as Thursday, September 28th, and it's going to go from 4 to 7 p.m. It's open house style, so people can come at any point during that time. The activities that would be set up could take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, for someone to kind of walk through each of the stations. The idea is that it will not take them an hour or 2 hours or anything like that. We want them to be able to come at their own leisure, talk to the folks who will be volunteering, as well as Randy and myself will be there, and Matt Cowell from Leah, our executive director, is going to join us too, just for help at this, to be able to walk through some of the issues. The style we talked about doing, and I think we're sticking with, is there's going to be different stations set up. And in this memo, I left a blank where it says the number of stations would be, because I didn't know if that was going to change or not. But based on what we proposed here, the stations are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So looks like we've got 6 stations set up. So, which is good. We wanted to have somewhere around 6 roughly stations. Seems to be enough for people to get through. The first station you'd come to when you come in is going to be your welcoming station. That's where you can ask general questions or pick up any materials we may have. Now, I'm not 100% sure yet exactly if we're gonna have like a piece of paper someone would walk around with and write on. I think last we spoke, we were leaning a little bit more towards using some sticky notes and sticky dots and things like that. So there may not be a piece of paper there. The only thing that you may want to have, you know, at the open station that someone could fill out that would be totally, if they wanted to provide the information, might be demographic information, would not necessarily be required. Just to get an idea of who's coming and participating. And then from there, they could also get instructions at that station how each of the other stations work. So whoever's sitting there should have some broad idea of what's going on at the different stations. The first one, this is kind of a big one. And I just want to say thank you. I don't know who put together the one, and I'm sorry, I forgot. Randy, you'd sent this one with the infrastructure land use, this memo.
I think that was Tom's comments.
Oh, Tom's comments? Okay. Well, then, thank you, Tom, because these were very helpful. And it was nice to see going through that because it made me feel like, okay, we're kind of on the right track here with this. There were only a couple little mismatches I might change. As long as this group feels, you know, the same and that this is the kind of information you want to go over. And that's what we're going to do right now. So that first station's zoning and land use and PET, preserve, enhance, and transform is kind of the method we're going to use at this one. The idea at this station, now statutorily, you are required to talk about land use in your master plan, your future land use. So it's just makes sense to have that station at the open house. This one will include a map of your zoning and future land use maps. Now, I was made aware that those are the same map in your current master plan. When I looked at that, I thought, okay, that's I've not seen that before, but but if it's the same map for now, and I don't know if that's going to change once this master plan goes through, or what you want to do with it beyond that. But I'm going to present a map of the zoning, current zoning and future land use at that station. I also want to have some visual aids like air photos, kind of like right next to that. And these will be big, like 24 by 36 prints. I want people to be able to kind of see what's going on them the best that they can and be able to get close to it and point and go, there's my house if they wanted to. And on those, that just gives you the general broad overview of where the boundaries are of the township, what that includes. Maybe you'll see major roads like M72 here on it. And then what the exercise would kind of be is I'd want to have another kind of large map of the township kind of right in the middle of this where someone would be able to come in and use maybe some different color sticky dots where you'd be able to say green is preserve, we like it, don't change this. Yellow is enhance. It's not you know, there's things we like about this, but there's things that we think we could do better, and then we'll get more into that with some general comments. And then transform is kind of another way of saying things that we don't really like but we think are maybe opportunities that we want to change or see something happen. And then we'd be able to kind of identify roughly where those locations are. Now, with me still being so new on this project and getting familiar with my geography, you might know better when you see these sticky dots going up. Of course, by then I may know a little better myself and go, I know it's right there where I see all these red dots getting stuck. That's where such and such thing is, and we know that that's something people want to see a change take place or a transformation on that site. And this is just to give us some general idea of what people are liking, or if there's opportunities to do some things differently. And at any point when I'm talking, please feel free to just step in, ask questions, because otherwise I'm just gonna kind of keep moving along.
Sounds good.
We have one.
Oh, sure.
This data, ultimately, as you described it, this is where people want this type of development. How many votes do I get? How can I skew that? So that it skews in my favor. Are you good? Are we gonna be limited? I get one red dot
Yes.
and I represent one family.
Well, so what we'd like to do is give each individual, and I don't know the number of dots yet, but it'll be limited and monitored. And that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. We certainly don't want someone to go up there with a whole page of red dots and just start throwing them on one spot. Now, if you have 3 red dots and you throw all 3 on the same spot, well, then I guess you feel pretty strongly that that's something you really want us to take a look at a little bit further. But yes, thank you. Great question. But yeah, the stations will all be monitored. There'll be somebody kind of standing there and making sure people aren't exchanging, hey, I'll give you 3 green dots or 3 reds, kind of deals going on the side.
Black market for dots.
I suppose if someone really wanted to get away with that, they might be able to pull one over on us, but we'll kind of be watching what's going on.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
So will because I know that, like the scenic and iconic areas, that was one of the questions on the survey. So will that information already be shown on this map?
Well, so that's a question I have that I want to bring up here, actually. And we can get to that. Generally, with something like that, my suggestion would be, I don't really want there to be any bias based on what was in the survey, and I'd be more interested in just seeing what people coming with fresh eyes, maybe they didn't take the survey, maybe they never saw it, maybe they did, and that's fine too. And they want to come up and be able to comment on that. That would be my suggestion. However, if you want, we can put labels on the maps if there's certain areas where you already say, no, we know this is something people are gonna, comment on, or they're really gonna like. Personally, I wouldn't recommend doing that, but we could do either or.
So you could do some kind of an overlay afterwards, right? Where you're comparing the survey results to whatever, because I agree with you not putting it on there, but, and it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea, and this, I think, goes a little beyond maybe what we were gonna talk about, but, doing a comparison, like a map of, if we can map it from the survey results based on what you see and based on what information you collected at the open house, it would be kind of neat to see how the two overlap, but yeah, that was one of my questions, which way you guys would like to go with that. And then a couple other things going on at this station. We are going to ask some questions based off the results we got from the survey, but not necessarily in. We have to be careful because we don't want it to be leading. We don't, again, if you have a fresh set of eyes, somebody's coming in, we want them to have the opportunity to give their input without bias. And one of the things that came up in the survey was actually about agriculture, rural character. So one of the things I wanted to do here, because based on what we saw, I mean, that can kind of go all over the place what people feel that is exactly.
No, I forgot to get you a flash drive. It just dawned on me. I was going to bring something.
Oh, okay. Well, we can
we'll
we
work
can
on that
follow
later.
up on that. Yeah, and on that, the idea was going to be to use different photographs of different types of rural environment or character, so that people can kind of use that as an identifier, as like, this is sort of what I think of when I think of rural character, and they can, put a dot with it or something like that. And you might, we may have 4 to 6 different examples of what that might look like. And that way we can get some idea when people say we want to preserve the agricultural rural character of the township. We're starting to get at least a photographic idea of what that means. Is it large lots? Is it forests? Is it farms? We want to try to narrow that definition down a bit, and hopefully that'll help give some visual idea of what people are thinking of when they comment on that.
I just want to jump in just a second. I
Yeah.
just want to get a consensus. I would like to keep this like just an open meeting where you guys can just jump in when you like. But we need to have consensus that everybody agrees with that.
Agree.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And when you do have a question, if you could come up to the microphone, because we can't quite capture everything on there if you don't. Okay, thank you. Go right ahead.
And as long as you've been up here,
John Morgan, apologize for my lateness. My car wouldn't start.
Oh, darn.
Yeah, can you spell your last name, please?
Wierdengi. And I have a question. I don't know when to fit it in. I just wondering what the level of participation was on the survey.
625.
623.
Yeah.
Out of how many?
I think we figured there were about
2,500?
2,000 adults in the township.
And that was quite a bit over what last time was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
Can
Go
can
right
I,
ahead.
can I just
Okay.
add, where in these categories is parks and improvement and zoning enforcement? Because those were some of the items that we did an ARPA survey and some of that was in the ARPA survey. That's one of the agenda, the top items that people were interested in was parks and zoning enforcement.
This zoning enforcement would be under zoning.
Yeah,
Well,
it would have to be, enforcement is completely different than ag and, I mean, it's in, you know,
The zoning enforcement one is on my list of questions for you today.
Okay,
Actually, because
all
I don't
right.
have it included in here yet.
okay. And then,
And then you said parks as well.
yeah, like parks improvement, and the parks, and if that's important. I see you have parks, but it's under scenic and iconic areas. It could be development.
If I could just jump in here though, with regard to the parks, there is a separate park and recreation plan that the township has adopted
Yeah.
that is in place that goes through in a form that the DNR requires to be
Mhm.
eligible for grants. So for the most part, we've tried to stay away from the parks issue in the master plan, in that referring then to
Okay, so
that.
maybe that would be one of the handouts, because people will ask
Yeah.
about parks and we can
Yeah.
just say, here's the
It's-
plan.
And it's a 5-year plan, and I think we're about midway through that.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going to be updated next week or anything. So.
Okay,
And then one other point is that this committee is ultimately to recommend to the planning commission on this course of action. So that's kind of the end game and the purpose of our discussion.
mhm.
Thank you. So some of the other things, I'm hoping to glean from this station would be where certain types of development may go. I know there was some discussion about higher versus lower density residential in your questions. So it would be good to glean some kind of information from folks about that. Where is that kind of development? Where do they want to see something like that take place in the township? Also, alternative energy, and this was another one that I went a little back and forth whether or not it was going to go here or not. But ultimately, the reason I decided it would go here instead of under maybe a separate heading was because the type of alternative energy that I think was being discussed was solar fields and that sort of thing. So you may have a large solar array, kind of like you see, where is it, Elmwood Township or something on the other side of the bay.
72.
Yeah, I have something like that. So where would that type of development go? Is there anything we want to learn from a land use standpoint? Seeing as how I think you had a small majority that supported something like that, but it sounds like where it would go would be kind of up in the air right now. And then also the scenic and iconic areas that were listed, and this could be something a little bit separate. It may be its own map. I know there were a lot of mentions of certain areas that I think one of them was the scenic view along M72. I forget the name of the lake, the one that starts.
Skigamaw.
Skigma.
That's outside of the township though, I think, isn't it? That scenic
The
view
viewpoint
spot?
is,
The
Yeah.
viewpoint is,
Skigamaw is in the
Yeah.
township.
but the
Yeah.
view
The
is
view
outside.
spot is
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're looking at the township, so.
Okay,
Partially,
okay.
so it's.
Got it. Yeah, because I was looking that up on a map. I don't know if that's in Whitewater Township. Okay, the
No.
lake is in the viewing area. is
Part of the
outside.
lake is in Whitewater.
Okay, so we want to kind of identify, and people may pick things like parks and trails and things like that, that they go, well, we gotta hang on to this, preserve this. Or that it's known, it's a very known iconic spot. So we want to give people an opportunity to kind of identify what those are. And hopefully, again, kind of from doing this location-based sticky dot exercise on a map, we're going to be able to see, well, this is where such and such park is or something like that. And we know that we got 20 people that said they love this. So we'll have an idea of what those features are.
To jump in here again, just a second. Well, I like the way this is written out, as far as what we're gonna maybe suggest to the PC.
Mhm.
So as we go through this, can we make corrections and changes to this as we go, so that when we're done with this
Yep.
discussion, we actually have a recommendations for the PC?
Absolutely, yep. That'd be perfect if we could make those adjustments now, because then I can revise this, send it back to you with corrections, and then you've got a recommendation.
So can we go back to? So the welcome station just would be just for information. And then I think you had touched on it earlier. I'd like for our suggestion would be to have a sheet there that would have each one of the stations and have each one of the topics under those stations. So they could go, anything that was in here, they could go right to and say, this is what I want to talk about. I want to go to this station.
Yeah,
Does
we
that
do
make
allow,
sense?
we could almost take this memo and kind of use that as
With
that
bullet
handout.
points.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
On the welcome station, one of the things that I was suggested here, and you said if desired about collecting information, I guess my question is, what would we do with that? I mean, we don't need more tasks.
No, it's, like I said, it's completely optional. It's kind of standard procedure in a master plan, collecting demographic information, but you don't need to. At least for this event, but we've done it in other areas that I've worked in, so it's something we can do.
I think one other point too is we wanted to collect email addresses of people who attend so that we can notify them of the second workshop.
just a sign-in sheet
Yeah.
with a couple quick little questions on it.
Yep, we could do a sign-in sheet with emails and that'd be.
And then mention, that, you know, what emails do you want to receive? You know, like if they might want, you know, different things. I don't know. Or is that too much?
I think
Well,
it's too
I'm
much.
kind of reluctant to hand out my email, wondering if I'm going to get blasted
Yeah, that's,
every week with stuff. I
Well,
might
it's-
specifically say
yeah.
with the sole purpose of notifying you of the next meeting.
I like
The
that.
next meeting and the release of a
Information.
draft of the master plan, or, I mean, just, it wouldn't be a weekly emails or
Yeah.
anything, but just key events.
We understand that.
Master
but
plan
They may
updates.
be reluctant to
Yeah.
give their email out.
Yeah, and I'd make it just optional. I mean, if someone doesn't
Mhm.
want to provide it.
Yeah, we won't have any enforcement there.
yeah, that'll be the next station. Station one.
Zoning enforcement.
Zoning enforcement. But I believe in Elk Rapids, when they were doing their survey, they had an electronic check-in, you know, like at doctor's offices where you put your name and, you know, address. If we could get something like that, that'd make it so much easier for the person at the welcome station. Would you have anything like that in your office? An electronic sign-in, so you don't have to write. People can just put their name in whatever demographics and then they could skip it or go to their email address and
Yeah, I don't have like a form or something like that that would be easy to do electronically, but, if we wanted to, someone could sit there with a spreadsheet open and just ask for that information from somebody and just type it in. If
Oh,
someone
I
doesn't
meant
want
like
to.
an actual little check-in, a little like, digital check-in.
Kiosk
Yeah,
type
look, yeah.
thing.
You just type in.
Yeah, so it'd basically just be a laptop, pretty much, that they'd be coming in and filling that out.
That's an
So,
idea.
I think a hard
Just-
copy is easier and less
Well, yeah,
scary for people, intimidating, and
the only thing I could tell you, if we brought like a laptop to do that, the only thing is if you've got like a pile up of 4 or 5 people and now they're waiting to fill that out, if we had just have a sign in or 2 sign in sheets or whatever, people can come up, fill those out real quick and keep moving if you get a line going. That I'd probably just keep it simple with doing the paper one, and then we can just take that information, type it into a spreadsheet later.
Okay.
But yeah, okay, so email addresses, sole purpose of communicating master plan, coming up events, things like that. No to the demographics then, or was that, you want to collect any demographic information?
typically in a workshop like this, what information are we trying to capture? What are you trying to capture?
Usually the major one would be like age, gender, race, things like that. But usually the only reason you might collect something like that for this is just to see where your participation is. Like you did in the survey, you've got, like I noticed it's skewed towards I can't remember the age bracket that it was in.
65 and over.
65 and over that took the survey. Okay. So you kind of know that's where, the demographic where most of that information is
Yeah.
coming from. As far as like the relevance to the master plan itself, though, you're already gonna look at census data and things like that. So it's really not gonna impact master plan overall. It's just telling us who showed up to do the survey.
What do you think?
So I think we'll start a little list of the things that, once we complete this, the little sheets or whatever that we're gonna have to complete to fit into this. One of them will be sign-in sheets, what we're gonna ask for, what we want to put in the help sheet. Is that the only 2 things so far that we'll probably hand out or ask for?
Yeah.
And then how the dot system or whatever is going to work.
So I think, yeah, when we get to the dot system and the post-it notes and things like that, where we're going to capture general comments, those would be easier to, if someone was at that station managing, here's the post-it notes and dots for this station, you get this many dots, here's some, and the post-it notes, we don't really mind if they have additional, like more than 1 comment. Each post-it note generally is like 1 comment. So if someone wants to fill 3 of them out at one station, that's fine. We have boards set up, as long as the comments are different. If they say the same thing 3 times, it's, what's going to happen is we're going to take all those notes at the end and kind of try to lump some together a little bit. Kind of like you were just talking about the survey a minute ago, the online survey. To summarize, there was a lot of interest. We had like 30 comments about this topic, and generally we may not say every single specific comment, but just a lot of people commented on this one particular thing.
Okay, so let's just make notes of the different things that we will discuss after this, or separately if we decide to take these projects on. How this sticky note thing will work, or how the capture of data will work actually at each station. The help sheet that we're going to pass out, and the sign-in sheets that this will be at the welcome center. Or the welcome.
Yep. So
So we'll discuss those later, but we know that we have to deal with that.
Um,
Sound good?
I think you kind of hit all of them right then, actually. But yeah, we can talk about them.
One of the details I would be interested in is the size of the map, because people, if you have a little map like what's behind you on the wall, people aren't going to look at that and figure out where to put the dot. The largest map that you can possibly get of an area would be very helpful.
Yeah, so kind of keeping printing capabilities and cost in check, and the company we usually work for, or that we use to print all of this stuff. Generally, a 24 by 36 is usually about a good size for something like that. I think they can print them a little bit bigger, but the cost starts to really go up after that for a poster board.
Yeah. Well, we also have a rectangular township, so it kind of almost lends itself to a 24 by 36 format.
It does fit pretty good, yeah.
All right, we'll add that to our comments or later discussions to size of maps and things.
Yeah, and I think you can get that from the equalization office. Print.
Okay, so welcome thing are kind of done with. I think we've kind of.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the zoning and land use stations. Were we talking about adding zoning enforcement to that then too?
So
Or would you add that somewhere else?
this was kind of focused mostly on the land use itself. That was one of the questions, I guess, that I had about zoning enforcement. I didn't put it in here, but one of the things you could do, either you could lump it in with one of these other things, but unfortunately, I think when you start talking about something that is a significant complaint that people are going to have a lot to say about, it can overshadow then what else is going on at that booth or that area. Another way you could do that is keep it under like the general feedback station as part of that, which might be easier to do in this case. Or you can create another station that's basically like policy or something like that, a policy driven one that talks about if you have more than one thing, like zoning enforcement's one thing that you would talk about. Another one that I didn't put in here at all was short-term rental. And the reason that I didn't put zoning enforcement and short-term rental on any of these is because they tend to be very valid but specific complaints about certain properties and things that people have in mind, where enforcement maybe hasn't been what it could be. And sometimes that criticism, it's in this format, like I said, it's all valid things to know and concerns to have. But in this format, people might tend to, you'd focus on that. And we'd really just drill into those topics and then kind of overlook some of the other things we're trying to ask about to get into the master plan.
Randy, is enforcement ever in a master plan?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, although, I mean, it's more policy driven, as Barry said. It's not like, that consumes a large portion of it typically. It's more future land use, future transportation, future public facilities. I mean, I think in this township, it probably raises to a higher level, just because it's been talked about a lot. So I think, but I do agree with lumping it together with some of these other issues like short-term rentals and.
I like that idea under
Mhm.
maybe general
and
feedback.
policy, and
Yeah.
there may be one or two others that we want to put in there. Just
Items of most concern or interest to, just put something under general, like what you're most interested in, and then they can list what, just a bullet list of what they are thinking.
especially on the short-term rental issue, we know the township's pretty well split on that. It seems like there's
About 50-50.
1/3 leave it alone, 1/3 regulated, and 1/3 prohibited.
Anything else you can think of besides zoning enforcement and short-term rentals that we could put under that general feedback?
I mean, that's just based on what I've seen so far. I don't know if there's other issues that you're aware of. I'm not, that maybe we could add.
But this would be a good area to add specific issues, is what you're saying.
You could, yeah, that would probably be the spot where I would park it in this format. I think zoning, so I'm gonna make a couple of, assumptions, so you have to help me if I'm wrong here a little bit. Generally, my experience with zoning enforcement, and I did zoning administration for like the first 15 years of my career, usually are some specific issues, but generally speaking, what I found is there's not enough of it, or it's not consistently enforced, and that's kind of the complaint, that you hear a lot. Which is why I think it's something that you develop into maybe one of your goals in your master plan. If we know that it's not being consistently enforced, or certain areas are not, being looked at enough, those are things you might want to put down as a goal in your master plan, like not necessarily even a policy goal, or
Policy.
like policy and administration type goal heading. And that would be something that would fall in there, is that you have to increase that or become more consistent with it. So that then as the township board goes forward and thinks about how they want to spend their dollars, if you're putting together a budget or something, then I'm talking later down the line, well, people have an interest in this, and maybe we're not doing as much as we could. Maybe we should be taking a little bit more of a look at that. You can point to your master plan, go see it. It popped up as one of our objectives, but that's my.
And I think you see support for that in the survey too. I think you saw that. So that's a logical extension to that takeaway from the survey. Is
And that you would add to this?
yeah, that we would deal with it in some way. And I don't disagree with Barry.
I guess my question becomes, when I think about any of these stations, sorry, Randy, I jumped, but is what information are you trying to glean from this? What do we want to know about zoning enforcement that we haven't already discovered or learned about it? Is there some other issues that we should get up on a board and let people talk about with that? Or
I think our zoning enforcement, I think the best thing would be just to capture their feelings about it. Why is it important to them? Because there's topics I'm sure that everybody, certain specific zoning enforcement that everybody's going to have maybe some different issues with, but we don't even have it. So I think we need to get that, try to push that toward the board.
And I think a little deeper dive into what zoning enforcement is. I think that's kind of a catch-all term. And I think in some cases, some people might be implying that we need a blight ordinance, or we need something to deal with properties that are distressed or that aren't being maintained. So it's not necessarily a zoning violation. I mean, it can completely conform with the zoning ordinance, but still be an eyesore. So if we can kind of distinguish between what exactly we're talking about. Sometimes people think zoning is covers everything, and it doesn't. It's really new construction. It's really uses of property, not so much maintenance of property. So kind of parsing that out a little bit might be more helpful.
Maybe a nice one sheeter of what zoning enforcement is to hand out to them, and then to break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
What is it that you think?
Yeah, what exactly are we looking to enforce with the zoning ordinance? I mean, it can be complying with the zoning ordinance, but still be a nuisance and
Yeah.
a problem.
Do we already have 6 tables in this, what you've provided? Because I like the question Keith mentioned is like, what is, when they give some general feedback, ask them what it is, but why is it important to you?
that would be, yeah. So for
I
the
mean-
general feedback session, I like the question. We just could plaster right up there. Not only what is important to you, but why is it important to you?
Yes.
And really try to capture that, because I know some other things that popped up were things, about lake area septic systems, blight, agriculture and agro-tourism, short-term rentals. So all these things are, a lot of times ultimately going to be a policy-driven decision, but there's probably some specific complaints, but I like the way you're framing it in terms of asking maybe at this station, so why, this is it, but why is that important?
Yeah.
And try to get some of that information. Cause I think you might find, like what Randy was saying, some of the stuff people think is zoning enforcement is usually like blight enforcement or
Right.
something. And it's actually a general code enforcement,
Nuisance.
nuisance type thing or something, but you wouldn't expect someone to know that, I mean, it's not necessarily immediately obvious, but at least you can capture that thought.
Mhm. And I don't know if how to ask it, but what they would think would be a good solution to their comment. If they're having an issue with this, what do you think a good solution would be for you and your neighbors? Just not you, but you and your neighbors or the community, something like that. He's got a sticky notes going right here.
Yeah, so I know we kind of jumped to general feedback because we added a couple of things there, but I guess let's go back to our zoning land and take a look at that and see if we want to make any changes to what we would send to the board.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of walked through, I think already what was under the zoning or the preserve, enhance, transform station. So I'll kind of capture there. I don't know if there were other things that we're missing that need to be added into that, or comment to.
Yeah.
I guess I would have a question, not specifically about the details of this station, but when you ask the question, where should certain types of development go? It implies to me that we have, or the township has control over that. There was a suggestion several times on the survey that maybe we should have high density housing near the school. But I don't think the township necessarily owns that property. And how does the township steer development of higher density housing or commercial housing? I mean, commercial housing, I realize there's more of a commercial district, but how do you, I mean, is that a practical question of where should certain types of development go?
So basically the way the planning and zoning enabling acts are written to address that issue, going through this master plan update process, this is the public input, the capturing those thoughts and feedback to decide where there's where the public would kind of like to see some of those things go and develop. What the township could then do as a response to that, if they so choose, is go back and say, well, we collected all this input. This is sort of what people were telling us where they thought these things could go. We kind of know why we would put them there. And then they can compare that to maybe some other things like infrastructure and stuff they have to consider. But those areas then, if they're identified in the master plan, could then be transformed into a future land use plan map that says, this is where we think we want to put higher density development because this is where people said they thought it would be appropriate when we got all this public input and went through the master plan process update. And then that would become the basis for maybe making a future zoning ordinance change or amendment to the zoning ordinance further down the line. In Michigan, you have to point back to your master plan to make that zoning ordinance update. If it's not in your zoning ordinance, then they can become a whole other series of issues that'll happen. I won't go into now, but that's kind of the basis for making those updates and changes.
Okay.
To zoning.
That's helpful. Thank you.
So the township already says what can happen where through the zoning ordinance. I mean, the existing zoning ordinance, the question is whether it's in sync with what people want, whether that zoning system that we have of residential and agricultural districts is placed properly.
You have a question or comment?
Yeah, I do. I have actually two questions and I'm not sure whether they're appropriate at this point, but my first one is the dot scenario type of thing. And it goes back to your question of where do you think solar fields are appropriate? At the end of this exercise, what will this group and ultimately the township get from a bunch of dots all over the world, or all over the township? And can that question, and I know it's semantics, can it be worded the other way? Where would you not want to see solar? Obviously, I don't want it in my neighborhood. Or are there areas where we don't want to have that? Because the opportunity is so broad throughout the township to say, okay, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine over here because it doesn't affect me. It's over in this corner over here. And when you go back to this question of who owns the land,
Yeah.
ultimately, if that's where Commonwealth or Consumers Energy wants to put it, it makes sense over there. That's where it's going to go, whether or not we dot it or not. So the question would be, is at the end of the day, you got these dots all over the place, or is this going to actually tell us anything? And that would be a job for this committee, the planning commission, to then ascertain, to say, we got these dots all over. What does it tell us?
Mhm.
Point.
Yeah.
And the second question is there an opportunity in the general table to ask certain questions that may not, in this cursory overview of the survey, that don't have a clear consensus? You bring up the short-term rentals, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. I personally think that was a bad question, where it came out 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. If it was a question of, are you in favor of it or you're not in favor of it, and forget about the enforcement issue, because it just puts in a line. Do more people from the not in favor move in this to in favor, or do people who are in favor move to not in favor? Is there an opportunity for the public to now respond in such a way to say, hey, what can we glean from those who attend this session, respond to a particular question that might be, in our minds, questionable? How do we interpret that?
I'm gonna pull us back. I want to, time's kind of getting away from us, and I want to get these done, and then maybe we can just discuss all the other stuff afterwards. But let's try to pull these 6 tables down, so we got something to send to the. So finishing again with the land use station.
So, we kind of went over zoning, land use. If there's nothing else there, one of the, moving on to development, is that okay?
Can I make
Yes.
one comment? You put on the first bubble there, definitions of the various zoning districts will be included. I think that's extremely important, particularly when you talk about agricultural, of what can be done with agricultural land.
Yeah, I was gonna pull the definitions. I think there's some right in your master plan right now, the current plan, and just kind of so people know this is what we define these areas as of today, right?
Yeah.
The next one was going to be development. One was kind of, again, more generally of the entire township, but I know when Randy and I got together last week just to talk about some of the specifics in here, one of the things that kind of popped up was Williamsburg, or downtown Williamsburg. That was mentioned several times in the comments. So what I was hoping to gain from this station in terms of that was what do you want downtown Williamsburg to look like? What is it we're going for there? Because I know it sounds like, and maybe there's some historic photos of this, there was more of a downtown area, maybe some of the buildings have been torn down since, but if we were to kind of focus on that area for future commercial development or mixed use or something like that, what's that gonna kind of look like? What kind of support is there for it? Again, this would probably be done through collections of some old photos versus current and kind of ideas, maybe what other full samples of what it could look like. What are you interested in seeing it look like? I know that was one specific area for development we wanted to look at. Some of the other things was maybe identifying sub areas like if there's higher density residential versus agricultural areas, although maybe I don't need to focus quite as much on that because those ones are a little more covered under the zoning and the land use station we just did before. And again, some of these things that I wrote in here were just ideas. We can pull them out or put more back in. And then another kind of thing was what type of look or style of development do you want? And this could be in other parts of the township besides that downtown area. I know the M72 corridor was mentioned several times about they like people said a higher quality development. Well, what is that? What do you mean higher quality development? What's working there right now? What isn't? What types of what would you like to see? I know there's going further down the line, a little beyond what this open house is, where that's ultimately going is, do you want to go to a point where you're having some kind of building design guidelines, or do you want to have building design standards built into your zoning code and they become law? Guidelines are suggestions, codes are laws. So what do you want? What would you like to see in that area? How far would you really want to take that? And that would be done again through samples of different like photographs and things of what may currently be there, examples of, what do you want to see there that we might pull from other communities just to give some ideas. Hopefully that strikes a conversation. Again, all these have open-ended comment areas where people can leave more specific comments if they want. And some of the things that also I think had popped up a little bit was like exterior lighting and signage that we could talk about a little bit in that development board. But we also thought it was important to assure that we respect private property owner rights because all that came up. So I'm inclined to say when we say high quality development, my inclination is maybe you don't want to go to the extreme of doing building design codes and things like that, form-based codes. But maybe you have some guidelines just to suggest to a new developer or business that comes in, we kind of are looking for this style. So that's kind of a chance for people to weigh in on that a little bit, to what degree they want to go to. There might also be some conversation around mixed use and subdivision design that keeps in the look and rural feel of the township. There's ways to do higher density development. Where was the one we talked about? Is that just down this road here?
Yeah, the Millbrook development here
Millbrook,
is on its surface a high density area, but driving down Williamsburg Road, you don't see the homes there. So they preserved rural character, but at the same time have high density. I mean, they're duplexes for the most part in there, I think. So that's an interesting approach to that.
A lot can be done with landscaping and trees. Another Williamsburg, only in Virginia. You can drive down the parkway and you will see nothing but trees until you turn in to the office park. And then there's this office park or there's a restaurant, but you don't see that from the road, but it's all there.
Right.
So that could be handled in another method. I'm just jumping in with a couple of comments. Some of these, in the terms of development, if you ask a question like, if 500 new residents were coming to our township, where would you like them to live? That would make people think, oh, there's that's a large number. Where would we, will we break down the farms into subdivisions, or will we put apartment buildings? It gives them a number to work with. They're thinking, oh, maybe 20 people, but if we have one developer come in and do a massive influx of residents, like we did have the one person come in, one developer, but they had to change their plans. It would have been a 300 person apartment complex. And most people don't think in those numbers for Whitewater Township. So I'd like there to be like a number that they, a large number that they would say, oh, where would I want 500 people to go? Because that is a possibility, and it gives them something. Yeah. And then the other one I was thinking about in the feedback, and I don't know if this could be at each station, say there will be another workshop more just on this topic, or all the topics, but would you like to be included in a focus group on this topic? And if so, leave your name and contact information. Then we have a group of people who are interested in it, and we can at least get people involved or thinking about being involved.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Station.
Yeah, I was just making a note of that.
But you may not know until you walk around and see all the topics that you're most interested in. This particular one is because it affects you the most likely.
Oh, yeah. And people can always come back to the welcome station, of course. And,
Checkout station too.
yeah, welcome, check out. They can go back, and that's the idea of the format, is that I want people to be able to just bounce wherever they want to go, wherever they're drawn next, they can kind of move around. And if one station's too busy, they can go to another one and check that out.
So
for a
just
minute.
kind of getting my head around this, the development station, would you be looking at like maybe separate boards with all the different zoning so that it separates a little bit, where if they have issues on, they have concerns on a certain type of zoning, that it's all on one board. So we're not trying to separate that out.
I guess I'm trying to picture what you're
So
describing.
in our zoning map, there's areas like R1 and all the different areas. So if you separate boards maybe by R1, by what is it, R2, or C1,
Ag,
agricultural,
yeah,
and
commercial,
all that.
industrial.
And then maps of those areas. Maybe that would help us separate that out. So when people go to those, it's all questions on that one zoning issue. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. Just in my mind, I'm trying to picture.
So
How's that going to look when I walk to the station? If I have an issue on something, is it just going to be all blurred, or am I going to be able to focus on, and is that the right thing to focus it on? I don't, that's what my question is.
We could separate them into different, one zone on each map. How I was gonna do it was just use the color code system that was in the master plan and do one map, but it's color coded. So I forget what all the colors are, I'm sorry, but green was, I think, your rural or forested area to the south, and then there's different colors for all the. I think you only had, how many districts are there? 6?
How many zoning districts?
Probably 6 with the village district.
Yeah, it's a couple of them are combined in a weird way. So.
Yeah, part of the for me, the color coded section was the colors were so dark I couldn't see the names of the roads. So that's why the size of the map is very important to me. Just for that reason, if you notice the scenic areas, and someone had Bates Road, well, Bates Road's not in our township. So people need to see that the border of our area.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely, I would think the 24 by 36 would probably be big enough to be able to distinguish the different zones. My idea was, thank you, was taking taking the map right now. I'm sorry, this is hard
Yeah.
to see from where you're
Yeah.
sitting, but the current zoning map and kind of doing an overall township.
Mhm.
But then where you have a lot of different colors right here around Williamsburg, doing a zoomed in one just on
Mhm.
that area.
Yeah.
Like on a big 24 by 36, so that you can see and read this area better. Cause around all in the northern part and the southern part, it's all
Mhm.
kind of the same, easy to read. But that area gets a little more congested. So that I wanted to break out as a separate
Yeah.
map.
Mhm.
Could you do the commercial zone large and the industrial zone large? Because and the ag, because they actually kind of have a common border, I guess I would say. And people, I don't even know if it goes all the way to a road. Sometimes it seems it may stop in the middle, like
Yeah.
Tobago is part of our, nobody knows it's at the top of the hill on Angel Road.
So with your commercial, it's hard, again, it's hard to see. Industrial is this little gray dot
Yes.
here, and then you've got commercial are these red
Yeah.
kind of areas.
So it'd be in the blow up area.
My idea was grabbing that, blowing it up, and instead of being a 25 by 36 that's height wise, we'll just turn it to
Yeah.
landscape mode and blow it up as big as we can get it to get the names and everything, and be able to see the individual parcels. You may not, I mean, you'll probably be able to see parcels just like you can here
Mhm.
on the full size map, but when you get into that blown up area where you got all kinds of little parcels around Williamsburg that are chopped up and harder to see, that's why I wanted to get that zoomed in spot.
Will this map be at each station?
Well, that map will probably just be at the development station. I might make one for like the zoning.
Zoning,
one
and
as
then use,
well.
and development and, yeah, okay. Yeah,
Wherever it makes sense, I'd probably want to do it. Those two stations make the most sense to me. I don't know if that'll be necessary for some of the other ones,
mhm.
but definitely when you're trying to see the different zoning districts, we want to be able to, I want to zoom in and be able to read the roads and see the parcels so someone can walk right up to that map and go, okay, that's that intersection. I know where that is, and get a little bit clearer idea, because it is more conjumbled in there.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's another land use issue in this that has been on my mind since I looked at this for the first time, and that is that the area that's zoned R1 includes everything along the lake, both Elk Lake and Skegamog, but then also along all the creek channels. So we zone areas along the creeks.
Yeah.
R1, which creates higher density than, I mean, it's almost the opposite of
What you want, yeah. Yeah,
So, I mean, hopefully that issue can come up in the land use stuff as
the
well.
environmental,
Right, because that's, I suspect if people look at that and say, why is that?
yeah. Are we done with development?
I think so. Would like to, and I can work on that a little bit this weekend. Would like to see, it wouldn't have to be in here, but just for the people at the stations. I would like to see the station with corresponding questions.
Oh,
So
good
that if somebody says, well, I want to talk about this question, we know that that question is going to be under
Yeah.
this.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You need to be at station 6
Right.
or 5 or whatever it is.
So I'll work on a little bit of that. If I have questions on, I'll shoot it to you.
So you bring up a great point, with the corresponding, now that we're talking about adding questions at each of the stations, before your next planning commission meeting, my assignment is I want to have this memo redone with more of these specifics we got into today,
Mhm.
but I'd like to add questions also into this memo. What are the questions we're going to ask at each one of those stations? So I've been recording some of the stuff we've been talking about now, but if you have further discussion or other things you want to see, maybe we can they funnel those back through you, Randy? Okay. And then I wouldn't mind including a list of some of those on
We
here.
can get together again and go over it together.
Yeah, before the next PC meeting.
Well, the PC meeting is the 6th, and the packet will go out probably Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think all we're gonna be able to do for the packet is to get maybe this
Yeah,
ready for it.
yeah.
And then all these other little things that we're gonna have to come up with.
I don't know that it needs to be everything resolved at that point, but
Okay.
I would say it's not gonna be all done
Yeah.
by then.
right.
If you have questions that you would like to be added, if you just write it down and give it to us today, that would be great. Because you have another perspective.
All right, so under development. Is there anything else you wanted to add or questions on that?
I don't have any.
Okay, move on to infrastructure and transportation.
Yeah, so under infrastructure and transportation, we thought about, I guess there's been conversation in the past in the township about non-motorized trails, bike trails, or possibly even using old rail lines for some kind of riding device. I'm sorry, I don't know what you call those, but it's like where you put it on the
Mhm.
tracks and people sit there and pedal and you can actually go down the rail track on them. But things of that nature. So basically, other alternative, not cars, basically alternative forms of transportation, walking, biking, ride, rail riding, whatever it is. We wanted to kind of gather folks' feedback, if there's support for those types of things, what they had in mind for that, maybe. I believe, and I would have to verify this because I may be wrong and speaking out of turn here, but I believe there was some kind of TART trail development that went along up into Turtle Creek Casino that was an extension out of Acme. And I don't
Yeah.
know if there's a plan though to keep going with it, but maybe that's something we would want to think about would come into the township at
Right.
some point.
For sure.
So
As well as the other existing trails, the bike trail, that Route 35 that goes through Acme Township, and then that Iron Bell Trail that goes from Belle Isle to Ironwood,
Mhm.
goes through the corner of our township.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Bates Road. yeah,
yes,
Yeah,
Which is
it's,
Acme
it's
Township.
Acme Township, but it's
But-
like very close to us.
yeah. Maybe that would be one of the handouts, the chart trail map.
Yeah.
And then the future development plans, because they are having an extension, but I can't remember exactly what they're connecting, but I think it's more with Elk Rapids and that.
Yeah, it's going along the lake shore up to Charlevoix. It
Yeah.
does not involve
Us, yeah,
water at all.
unless
Well-
we get involved.
Yeah, maybe this is the chance to talk about that though, that if it's something, if there's support, folks want to see some kind of connection into those. It never hurts to put something like that in your master plan. Trails are interesting because it's something you can talk about in master plans because it kind of is not just parkland per se. It's something you can talk, though you could talk about in a parks plan as a connection, as a physical activity or something like that, getting outdoors. But it's also something that a lot of places do as a separate trail plan. I think you're at the point where it makes more sense to at least discuss it in the master plan. Maybe that means there needs to be another subcommittee someday that's gonna look at that and how it would work with TART to make a connection. I don't know, it could go that direction, it may not, it may, rest here and that's it, but from a master plan standpoint, it's a big, broad overview, some goals or things you may want to look into a little bit more. It doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you're at least exploring. Yeah, do people want, is there an appetite for this? Do people want to extend some of these trails or connectivity and things like that? And if you get generally positive feedback, maybe that's your sign then to keep going with it and go, okay, well, how do we do that beyond the master plan? I think that's really kind of the stage you're at right now, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think
Yeah.
there's been a trail plan or.
No,
anything
No.
in the
I do
township.
think it was interesting in the survey results, though. It came back stronger than what I thought you would get for a rural area. You know, I mean, you see non-motorized talked about in
Mhm.
more urban spaces, but
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's some support here.
and you have to think of the demographics that responded. We,
Yeah.
we're out walking more. Yeah, I think that would be a great topic, but more of another ROS maybe, or part of the Park and Rec.
Mhm.
One thing I don't see on here that I think we should talk about, unless I missed it somewhere, was township buildings, infrastructure, township infrastructure.
Oh.
And 'cause I know this has been left out a lot.
Yeah,
and I don't think there's an issue.
It's mentioned briefly in the first 4 chapters it's on, and there was a study that the township did that looked at this building as well as the need
Mhm.
for expansion of the fire department and the village, the township hall, and there's just a lot of moving parts with that. And
Is
It-
that something we could add in general feedback?
Yeah, that's
Another
a feedback question.
feedback question,
Uh,
your thoughts on
Yeah.
updating or?
I think it also connects with potentially redevelopment of the whole area here
Yeah.
too. If there is to be, and this is way premature to, but if there is to be any kind of rethinking of the public space, fire department, township hall,
Government center.
government center, community center,
Yeah.
you know, multi-purpose building, whatever, you know, that can go a lot of directions, and
Mhm.
now would be the time to talk about that, or at least explore that. I think, and that it could be a stimulus for redevelopment too in
Yeah.
this area.
One of the handouts could be the report, and I'm gonna, on the water and sewer lines, and the water tower, how much that would cost, because people may want it, but they don't want to pay for it.
Right.
And so if they know how much it's going to cost, then it's going to change how much they want it.
Exactly. And that's tied to the redevelopment question, because if
Mhm.
you're going to encourage higher density development
Yeah.
here, typically it's going to need support with water and sewer. And I don't think anyone's looked at the options as far as extending from the casino or whatever
they
else.
have.
I mean, there's lots of,
Yeah, they have.
okay, well,
Yeah, I know, but I mean, they have, and that's why it's still unresolved, I guess would be the term. Or a dead end.
So you get that for general feedback, then adding maybe township facilities.
township facility, yeah, public facilities.
Did you want the water line thing also under general feedback?
I think
or-
you have that
You
already
have
under
under
infrastructure.
development, doesn't it? Or infrastructure, yes.
Yeah,
Sewer or
let's
water
leave that under
service.
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Okay.
Okay, we talked a little bit about some of the private development, like on M72, the look and feel. This is the last thing I had in here is the look and feel in terms of like congestion management. So you're talking more, and I think the major thing that popped up like is combining driveways or limiting curb cuts or things of that nature. This might be a time to ask a little bit about if there'd be support for anything like that. We might even be able to just show an example of what a combined curb cut looks like for multiple businesses versus everyone has their own driveway.
Right.
Mhm.
And then you got constant stopping, you know, and cars backing up on M72. That was the only other thing that really popped out to me from.
Can I add, if this would be a question, maybe in general feedback, if any people, if anyone would be interested in donating land to the township for a water tower or a sewer station. Part of the cost of any project is the land and the proximity to the density of the population density. It seems like a far-fetched question. However, I know people have done it in other areas and that they've made these large donations. In my area, someone donated all the farm to be a new park for the community. And it was like 70 acres. I mean, these things do happen. So maybe there is someone out there who would consider donating their property to the township for a project. It maybe not,
This setting, but
maybe not the master
it's a
plan.
great idea, though.
That's more the implementation
Yeah.
of the.
Maybe in the smaller focus group workshops, that they could come up with
Yeah,
that
more
suggestion.
Implementation of.
Okay.
Things.
All
And
right, I
then-
want to wrap this up in 15 minutes. Here,
Okay.
So let's move on to finish this part.
Well, that's what I had for infrastructure, transportation, that we want feedback on. Is there anything else before we move on to well, we've kind of talked about general feedback a bit throughout this whole thing.
Yes.
So really the last one is going to be the 2015 master plan goals. But before I go on to that, is there anything else for infrastructure and transportation?
Is there any, I guess I just have one question with that. Is there any thought about, that just popped in my mind, so maybe it's already been dealt with, but like the beta throughout this township. Beta transportation
Yeah.
stations and that type of thing. Is that something that maybe would fit in here, or has that already been discussed and? No.
No, we really haven't, as far as I know, discussed public transportation and
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Is there enough stations in the township? Is there any stations in the township? And
Yeah.
that type of thing. So, you know?
Yeah.
And that's really not even in our township, just part of it.
Yeah.
that's as far as the public transportation comes. As far as the
And have
casino.
them pick you up. That would
Uh-huh.
over on
Maybe throwing in a question there about public transportation beta. Is it sufficient?
Open-ended question. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts about public transportation? in township?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So one question I had was about roads. And I know that there's some concern about maintenance and who's responsible for it and what role the township plays in that. And then my other, that's more of a comment. And then my other question was, there's a question on here. It says, what is needed to support higher density development or commercial areas? Are you asking the general public that? Because I'm not sure they can give you a really fully formed answer. I mean, I'm sure that there are things that I'm not thinking of, that are needed to support higher density, districts. So I don't know if you want to give a list of those and say, where would you suggest they are located, or, because it's more than water and sewer, right? I mean, if we suddenly have a surge or a high density area, we need probably additional fire department support, things like that. So I was just thinking that as a general question, what is needed to support that? I don't know if you're just asking this group that, or if that's a question that you were going to ask the public, because I think there's so much that goes into that most people won't think of. Yeah, maybe we need to tell them.
There is. That was more a question for this group for
Okay.
today, but yeah, you're right. There's certainly a lot of considerations. If you're gonna add to the question of where would you put 500 new residents?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes
Yes,
with that.
now there's police and fire, emergency services, sewer, transportation. There's all kinds of questions and start to get raised, where that's coming from. You know.
Brought up a good point too, in infrastructure and transportation, I don't really see anything about roads
Yeah, I didn't either.
and, the maintenance of them, nobody talked about dirt roads getting paved, roads that are fixed that aren't being fixed. That might be a good spot to put road concerns or thanks for bringing that up. Totally slipped there. I didn't even see that.
I might, with the roads, kind of similar to what I kind of said earlier under the zoning station, I guess or about zoning enforcement, if there are, I'm trying to picture how roads they're a very multifaceted topic. They could be their own plan. But with roads, in terms of the master plan, what is it that as it may apply to land use, how are we concerned about the condition of the road, or how does that tie into land use? That can become probably another general comment kind of question, in the sense that if the concern is, how are we maintaining the roads? Well, that ends up ultimately coming down to like a capital improvement plan, and looking at traffic patterns and what roads does it make sense to pave or improve. From a master plan standpoint, road improvement might come in the sense of, where's new development going? If those hypothetical 500 people move in, how's that going to impact traffic in that area, or what kind of road infrastructure would be needed to support that? So there's kind of a separation a little bit going on with that. I understand roads can also be contentious, particularly in our state where many of them are crumbling. And how do we keep up with that? But how does it apply to the master plan and land use planning when we talk about road infrastructure? That's why I looked at the M72 corridor with the combined drives, because that could be a direct thing, that land use decision that could actually impact your zoning ordinance, or a change to the zoning ordinance to allow for a certain number of driveway curb cuts or combined curb cuts or something like that. That's totally a zoning issue that would come straight out of your master plan if there's support for something like that. But fixing roads is not necessarily something that would be a master plan issue. I think that'd be more a road capital improvement.
Would the master plan suggest or help suggest that we do that? I mean, putting it in the master plan, would that help suggest that maybe the township needs to do a master plan on, or a plan on roads, what you call that?
Or they look at doing a more like a comprehensive capital improvement plan for roads. I know, like, for example, Grand Traverse County does one for the whole county for county thoroughfares, and MDOT gets involved with highways like M72 and 31 and all that. So there's different layers of government there, right, that have some jurisdiction over the repair and maintenance of those roads, from the state, the county, and then the township level. That's why I say roads can get rather complicated in how we do maintenance on those.
Yeah, I think the focus is mostly on the improvements to the road, whether it's deceleration lanes, center turn lanes, signalization.
But really here where you've got under M72, under infrastructure, really talks about the roads anyways.
That was the one that was identified where there might be opportunity for improvement or some changes that might help with traffic congestion or things of that nature, especially if you look at the area where you're most likely to probably see some more density and development's going to be around Williamsburg, and that's going to certainly impact M72. That's why that one was kind of put in there.
That's what Joffrey, did you have anything else? Sir?
That's it.
A question, a comment on this is, and I've done a lot of research on the road issue between Grand Traverse County and the township. The township elected officials and the township as a whole has taken a hands-off. It's not our responsibility. And the question should be posed to the residents. should the township take a more active role in coming up with a solution, whether it's financially from our standpoint or supporting? And I applaud the township because now they have said that if I can get 75% of my neighbors to sign on to a special district, they'll put up $1,000. So that it's beginning to move in that direction. But the county comes back and says, go see your township, because what the county has done is said 50% of the cost has got to come from your township. And the township is, so the residents don't understand that. They
Yeah.
think it's the political element, and we need help, and that needs to be communicated. And I think residents would respond by saying, hey, government should seek a way to figure this thing out.
That's what happened with the natural gas pipeline. When we were trying to get it through our neighborhood in this section. Well, I won't go through all the background, but basically we ended up buying, everyone had to chip in $5,000. And so, and we had to have over 100, they wanted 120 residents. So you do the math. That was a lot of money for us to come up with, $500,000. And so we did. But it took the will of, we went door to door and we talked to all the residents and we really had to push with DTE. I mean, it took us 2 years, but it's not an overnight thing. You really have to get your whole group organized and really push it at every level with the township and the county. But I know you know that already because you've done it. So, yeah.
I think the township would be a question for residents to say, township, you're the elected officials, you have to help us. Just, it's not right that you're taking a hands-off approach.
Yeah.
Is that something we would put in this, or is that something that this is not? It's not for that.
I think that it's, again, that something like that would probably fall under general feedback in terms of this. It's not that it is an important issue. It definitely is. In terms of like land use and development though, as it applies to the master plan, it might be a separate issue.
Let's just put it under general feedback then, under roads, and maybe, I like the way, what was your first name again? I like the way he put that as far as,
Yeah.
maybe, do you feel that the township has a more hands-on approach to roads?
Yeah, I just don't want the residents to think because it's in the master plan that that's going to necessarily drive immediate action when there's
Yeah,
a lot of other
it's-
things that
Yeah.
the master plan is oriented towards. I mean, it's important and
Well, then
we,
maybe you can help us with the wording of that then, so it. Okay.
Yeah.
Move on to the master plan goals.
So just so you know, all these comments we've had about general feedback this whole time, I've kind of just been adding to the general feedback section. So I'm not going to go over all of them again for the sake of time, but we'll make this kind of the last section.
Yep.
The review of 2015 master plan goals. Basically what I want to know is we wanted to take the goals from the existing master plan, which there are, it looks like 4 of them, plus a few kind of intangible, or well, some questions that were open-ended. So you got 4 major goals out of your master plan from last time. Whoops. And I wanted to basically take those and just put them on a board for people to see and read and ask them if any of these are still relevant or should be stricken, like we're done with this, or where it's not important anymore. Obviously, we're gathering feedback at all the other stations about things that are important to us now that we need to be focusing on to incorporate into the plan. Now we're asking, does anything, and maybe this should be the first station they visit before we go to everywhere else, are these, do they still apply? Or is there a way that we can or should be, and I can offer suggestions on this, measuring the success of any of these? That's kind of what we just want to ask generally about this, more or less, is do these still apply? Have we accomplished these? Is there any focus still given to them? And some of them might I think like the first one about respect private property owner rights guaranteed by the state of Michigan, that's still something that applies. But I want to throw them all back up there, just to see, I guess, capture the thoughts, what's changed since then. This was, what year was it? 2015?
Yeah. Is this a sticky dot? Is this a sticky dot board here? Like, get two colors, don't apply.
Yeah, I think that that might be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
Is put them out there and leave some blank space,
Mhm.
so that you can just, green, red, yes, no, right, or something. I don't want to get too fuzzy with the maybe, I don't know. What about like maybe this is just more of a yes, no kind of question,
Yeah.
to get a general idea and some clarity on whether or not we still need to be focusing on some of these or not. And then in the second session and going forward, you'll have to decide, based on that feedback, are we keeping it? Are we changing it? Or are we getting rid of it? But that's further down the line. This is just collecting that information at this
Sure.
point.
Okay. Yes.
Because it's in there and you bypassed it. Your communications, township will provide an email list to LIAA and email will be sent to OPA. Not if it's the treasurer's one that you're expecting. We do not share that. We will gladly send the information out,
Okay.
provided you can provide it to the treasurer's office.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's
We're not
totally
expecting
fine.
anything else, right?
I think maybe that could have just been a misunderstanding from the first meeting. You may not have been
Wasn't
here.
here
So.
to explain that.
Yeah. And that's however you want to
There's-
handle
I
that.
just
is
want to
fine.
let
Per
you know, there's
list.
over 1,100
We're
email addresses that we have.
right. We're happy to do it because we've got the ability, but we understand. It's totally fine. I'll give you the information and let you send it out. I don't need the emails myself or anything, other than to just send them
Experience
out.
with it either, but the treasurer is really, this is how people share their emails with the office, and we
Sure.
don't share.
Mhm.
Okay, I like this then. You're gonna give us a kind of an updated list to take to the board.
Yep.
Before, when? Rachel has to have it before,
Packet goes
She
out
puts it together
Tuesday.
Starting Monday,
Monday.
and Tuesday, and
She's-
on Wednesday it goes out.
okay, so late Tuesday.
Tuesday next week here.
Yeah. 28th, 27th, 28th,
29th, is it?
29th. It's a packet goes out, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
I'll get something back to you by that Tuesday. the
Or
29th.
Then
maybe
people-
the day before so we could review it.
Well, I think we'll let Randy
Yeah.
review that and
Okay.
Yeah, and then, obviously the planning commission will review that and then
Mhm.
say this is a go and let's.
Yeah.
But there's still more details to be worked out, obviously,
Oh,
but
there's
this is
tons.
just,
Yeah.
it's a good start though.
Yeah.
oh, it's great.
And I just wanted to clarify, do we need to have, I know what we do here has to be approved by the PC, but does like if we change the time or the date of an event, do we have to have them approve that or can we, if we just have to because does all of that have to be, I mean, is there any leeway we have?
Well, I think if,
Oh, I guess I should be asking you.
if we can, we need to take it to the PC.
Okay,
If it's something that happens just before or something, and there's no way around it, contact Rachel and let her know.
okay,
Yeah, but we work for the PC board, so we do have to keep them apprised of everything and they need to.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Real quick, it seems like we need something that kind of wraps up the information in terms of like what the next steps would be in the whole master plan process at this public meeting. And what a master plan does in terms of, because I think like the table or booth about the 2015 master plan is really important. And maybe that's where some of this happens in terms of like,
Yeah,
what happens next? How did we implement the 2015 master plan? And in addition
a
to,
good point.
whether it was
Yeah.
a success or not.
throw a handout to that
We
effect.
could do that at the Welcome Center.
Yeah.
Welcome Center.
Or it could just be a static display,
Yeah, that's what
Oh, okay.
just on man, but just this, this was the 2015, the recommendations and, you know, the dots, like, do you think we, yes or no, have we reached those goals?
Yep.
That,
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Maybe an
would that,
Information station or something.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
kind of like, I like that, yeah, what are we focusing on? Why are we doing this? What is a master
Yeah.
plan?
yeah, just a whole, because that could really tie up the check-in process if you had explained
Yes.
that.
Oh, and then what's next too?
What's next?
Yes, what's
Yeah.
next?
So one of the things that we told the board we would have too is our volunteer information, so tables. I'd be willing to take the general feedback one. Volunteer for any of these tables if they're here.
You were going to you were going to handle 2 tables, your staff?
There's myself and one other person from our staff that's coming, and Randy's gonna be there, so I know you got 3 right there with us.
Okay, is your staff person going to be with you, not at another table?
No, they're informed of everything. I'm gonna put them they can be at their own station and be on their own. if
So
they
that
need
could
to
be 4 right there. So we just need,
Well, I think
Well,
one of you guys
three.
should be a floater, so.
yeah,
Yeah, I would say probably for your hired contracted staff, we can easily float around from any station that you need us to, but depending on how many volunteers you have, I know it's good to keep someone at each station,
mhm.
as we
Mhm.
discussed.
Mhm.
so.
Basically, we need 6 names for 6 stations.
And Rachel said, I believe Rachel's volunteered for the welcome check-in.
Yes, yes, you did.
And I think of any of the stations, you might want to keep somebody like one of your contractors kind of near the zoning and land use
Mhm.
station.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll put that as you guys.
yeah, that would be you. Yeah,
Well, we don't have to put their names. We'll just
Yeah.
put,
Yeah.
And then, what was the other one that you think you guys would be good at?
um,
Want the development infrastructure?
Well, I think that was the only one I was thinking you'd really for sure want somebody
mhm.
to be at the zoning and land use one. There are other ones we can go anywhere we're needed.
I'll take the general feedback one because that'll be a mismatch of a bunch of stuff.
And then what are the ones that you need a volunteer for?
Well, development infrastructure and master plan. Names under. You want a specific one, Randy, or?
I kind of like to float through the,
Floater? Let's leave
through
Randy as
all
a
of
floater
them,
then.
through all of them. And like, there's a large number of people at one. Can
Mhm.
go over there and kind of
Yeah.
help that out, or
I will not be present.
Okay.
That's my,
Will you be here?
Yeah,
Which one would you like to take?
either the development or the infrastructure.
Take your pick.
Infrastructure.
So, IAA can take development. You said there was you and 2 other guys?
Well, me and one other person from my office, and then you also have Randy who's gonna be here, so.
And I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave Randy as a floater, so we'll still
Yeah.
need somebody for master plan.
master plan goals.
Yeah.
I'll do that if we.
Yeah.
rather
Let's,
than-
That one might be a little self-explanatory too, I think, with the sticky dot. So even if Randy was
Yeah.
there, he's still
He could
could
still
float.
float
Yeah.
I mean,
And somebody from the board might want to actually
yeah,
do one, and so that we could offer that one up if they want.
On the PC.
yeah. And it's almost ask for a couple backup people in case someone can't make it the last minute or people need breaks. Just to, which brings me, when you're all done with your questions, I want to talk about the site.
Okay, so for the PC meeting next. You're gonna work on the, getting the survey fixed.
Posters, advertising, and the communications. Is that where we stopped right there under communications?
Right,
My thought was, Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, Rick, go ahead.
My thought was that I think that we were pretty successful with flyers and some media contacts, and then we had the road signs that would need to be modified. And suggestion would be to work on adding those as well as what was suggested.
So
Yeah.
that would be
On
a
the
task
paper here.
for the ROS here to
Yeah,
work on the
could we,
flyer
yeah,
and signs.
just repeat what we did before. We
Yes.
had all the contact information, and I know I volunteered to hang posters in different businesses
I
and
think you mentioned the PC that you could put that.
Yeah, we just use the same format as before. That way it kind of looks similar to the same
Look at it.
colors and
Mhm.
Yeah.
layout and
Next meeting.
everything. And it's the same with the sign, you
Yeah.
know,
It-
planning workshop, Mill Creek Elementary, the date, time.
Do you have, or does Rod have those signs?
He has the signs, but we would need to make new ones, right? But I have the software or the program to do
Okay, I
that.
think the idea was to use the physical sign,
Oh,
but have an overlayment rather than survey, say,
master plan,
master
master,
plan.
well, whatever.
workshop.
Workshop.
Yeah.
Mill Creek,
Yeah,
9/28, 4 to 7,
right.
and attach
Okay.
it. To try to,
Do we want to try to do any PSAs over the radio, maybe?
I think we do.
Yeah, I think we did the last time.
We did?
yeah, I had
Didn't-
talked with Michelle Perez, and she was the communication person at a couple of radio stations, and talked to NPR, but they didn't want to do that survey thing, but they said if you have an event, you know,
Yeah,
come talk to us again and then get that on the
Yeah.
air.
Okay, would
And
you be willing to talk to them again?
Yeah.
so, Tom, if you want to, if whoever is involved in the last time, or if I would like you to just send an email and tell me, what you'd like done. If you need some help, I can volunteer to do certain portions of it so that you don't have to do everything.
Well, I think you did flyers at places that I didn't do
Yeah.
flyers. If you would,
Yeah.
do that again, that would be great.
Okay, then I'll tell you what I did the last time so you can coordinate.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm gonna work on a few things for the PC from the Excel sheets.
Okay.
I have
There's,
some stuff ready for that. Is there anything else we need to discuss on the? I mean, there's lots more here, so I'm thinking setting up another meeting after the PC meets again.
Yeah. Can I go over this real quick, the site?
Yes, go ahead.
I hate, I have to call, Mr. Hicks. I filled out the site requirement for Mill Creek Elementary, and I gave one to Randy and I believe everyone else. I didn't know, I filled this out before the meeting today, so I didn't know the exact times or the location. If you're going to add another display where you need more room, or the 6 areas, I don't know how much room you need for each station or table. So if you look at this, there's 2 locations at Mill Creek Elementary. There's the gym when you first go in on the right, and then the cafeteria. If you have a chance to go to the school and what you have envisioned for the size of each station and what you'll need, I just put down, 6 tables, 3 chairs at a table. But if you're, so in case someone needs to sit down, that kind of thing. I was just guessing. So anything that you need to change on this, that would be great. And let myself or Randy know, because we're the 2 contact names on there.
Yeah, I think, 6 tables should be plenty. The number of chairs, really, the people at the welcome station are gonna be sitting. The other chairs, I would say, would probably go around some tables in the middle of the room. So if someone wants to sit down and write, like on their sticky notes, instead of standing there and trying to write, that's probably about
That's about,
accurate.
okay. And I said, 6 tables. I have no idea what those tables are, if they're round or rectangle. I mean, I just put 6 because of the stations. So those are the kind of things that, the main thing I would think is whether the size of the gym or the cafeteria would be appropriate. If we serve food, she said we have to be in the cafeteria. But I said cookies and water, and she said, well, maybe not, So I guess we need to decide, and we want to end the meeting, but whether we want more than just a cookie, and water.
What time can we get in there by to start doing setup? 'Cause it's gonna
That,
take a little while. It's gonna probably take 30 to 45 minutes to set all this up.
okay, so I put in their setup time 2 p.m.
Okay, yeah, if we're there, I was thinking even if we're there by 3 or.
Yeah,
We'd be up and running by 4.
Okay, and that's, why I put 2, because I was, again, guessing. So if it's 3, they may come back and tell us, we can do setup, but we can't allow people in to the school before school ends.
Oh, yeah, as long as we can get in and do the setup, then that's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, people obviously.
So you think 3 would be sufficient?
I think as long as we had about an hour to get everything.
And then
together,
how many people?
I'd plan on being there myself at about 3:00 if we're gonna start at 4.
Do you need a team, more people than what's on your team to set up?
For the setup, probably not, but if people were there a few minutes early, just to kind of talk about each responsibility at the stations, it would be good if people were there like 15 minutes early. It won't take long to go through all that, but we just want them to have so they're not left hanging at each
Yeah.
station.
Do you have time to check out the gym? I mean, when you say gym, you think it's really large, but there's an area that is not gym floor when you first go in. And I think if that size was large enough, that would be better for the school, because walking around the gym floor is probably not the ideal thing for this.
Which area would it be then in?
The gym.
You
When you
wanna-
if you go into school and, you can check in and ask them, explain what you're interested in and see how much space there is in the entrance I call it the entrance to the gym area. That, or if they say, if you're going to have cookies and water, you have to be in the cafeteria, then I think that will be large enough, for sure, but the gym would be more convenient.
Okay, there's the next meeting. Being that it's gonna be September 28th is the township open house for this. I suggest, it'll be a lot. I suggest we meet 2 more times before that, get everything done. Is that possible?
Well, from our standpoint, I can tell you, making all the posters and everything is gonna take a while. That's gonna take several weeks to get all that done. I mean, the memo and outline, and all that will be back to you before Tuesday next week, but then if that's generally the direction that we're going, I will start our GIS person working on some maps and stuff, but that's gonna take time. I would think all of our materials would be done hopefully the week before, like the September 22nd, that Friday before.
Okay.
So that we have, and that should give me time in case there's any errors and I have to go back to the printer, because sometimes we get hung up on that stuff.
What if we met the 14th? It's the week after the township PC meets. And that way, if there's anything that we need to clean up, that gives us a full week to try to get that accomplished.
I'm not here on that 14th, but
Okay,
you
what
could still
about-
meet. The 15th is the only day I have open that week. But that's okay if you want to.
You guys available the 15th in the morning?
Mhm.
On the morning, yeah.
You are?
Yes, on the
Okay.
15th, yeah.
Is that available? Do you know? It is available here, 15th. Okay, let's try to do that. 9 o'clock. Friday, September 15th. Yeah.
So you would only have just a start on the boards and stuff at that time.
But by that point, I'd say how many we have done. I don't think we'd have it completely
Right.
done, but they'll certainly be. Hopefully they're mostly done.
Okay, any last comments before we close this meeting? Thank you all for attending. Is there any interest in,
Oh,
And,
anything on Zoom?
what's that?
I think that we need to make sure that.
Oh, Rachel has her hand
you
up too.
guys have Rachel's email to communicate with her and Randy's email to be communicating with him if you want to move forward.
Rachel's comment is we should use her opinion as a cafeteria. So when you take a look at that, I guess, look at the cafeteria area. She's been in there before, so.
Yeah, did she want the cafeteria? Is that what?
She said in her opinion is, I guess, take a look there. If that works for us, then.
Okay.
Is it public comment right now?
Yes. Feel free.
Okay. All right. Well, I first of all wanted to say thank you guys for a productive meeting. I couldn't attend or listen to the whole thing, but what I did hear was great. So I appreciate that. And I wanted to welcome our guests today and thank you for participating. And please let me know if you're still interested by Sunday afternoon. And once I have those videos of the last couple meetings for you, I'll be sending them to you. So thank you very much, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rachel. All right. Did you have anything else? Lois? Okay, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
What does the school charge us? Yeah. Perfect.
Great.
Perfect. But you know, it's not gonna be a 3-hour meeting.
No, it's.
Right? I mean,
You know how to share?
Share the